Hello my dear students, and welcome once again to another video for our class in PF 101 Event Driven Programming. In this video we are going to talk about Java Swing window events. So here we are once again in our Visual Studio Code editor. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a new class. I'll call this class window event demo.java. And we'll simply have this window event demo as a JFrame. Of course, the usual thing as we did, gonna create a constructor. And in the constructor, we are going to define our GUI, or graphical user interface. The first thing I want to set is the size. I'll make the size 400 by 400. Next, I'm going to give it the title, window event demo. Next, I'm going to set the default closing operation. It's going to be exit on close. And finally, going to set location relative to null so that it will be centered in our screen. So to demonstrate the window event capabilities of a Swing application, we are simply going to add a window listener to a class. In this case, our window event demo class is a JFrame or a subclass of the JFrame. We are simply going to add a listener to this particular class and implement all the window event methods. You see, the window listener interface requires to implement a lot. I think it's 6 required methods. And to do this is very similar to the others, which is we simply add. In this case, we're going to say window listener. And in here, we're going to add a new listener. But before that, let me first import the window listener. It's in the AWT event, as well as the window event. Okay, so here we are going to add a new listener, window listener here. And of course, this is going to be an error here because this window listener is a as we all know, is an interface that requires us to implement several methods. And to just populate all the required methods, we can just click put our cursor in this line and use the add unimplemented methods link here, and this will generate all the required methods of the window listener. So we have, let me explain to you each and every one of them when it is going to be triggered. So first, the public void window open, this event will be triggered when and if and when you open a window. So by the time you start an application, this particular application, it opens this window, and thus this particular event will be triggered here. Next is window closing. So just right before the window is going to be closed, this part will be triggered as well. This is very useful when you have an application that tracks changes, and once you close the window and there are changes that are unsaved, then this is a good place to do that code execution here. Then the window closing, the window closed is triggered right after the window is being closed. Of course, this will not be triggered at all in this scenario because our close operation is exit. So since it is going to exit immediately when the window is closed, this will never be activated. This will only happen, or this will only be activated or triggered when you close a window and that particular window, that particular frame has a default close operation of, say for example, dispose on close, then this can be triggered. Then window iconified will be triggered when a window is minimized, and then window de-iconified is triggered when you restore a minimized window. The other last two is window activated. This will be triggered when you select a previously deselected window. So when you have your window active and you click on another window, this will also be activated, the window deactivated method. And when you reselect this window, and so this window activated will also be triggered. Let's take a look at these events in action by simply adding some text messages that will be executed once these events will be triggered. For example, here in the window opened, you can just put a system.out print line here and say the window is now open. Then here for window closing, the window is about to be closed. Okay, window closed. Of course, this will not be triggered in this case, but we'll just put something here. The window is closed. And this one for window iconified, just give the message of the window is minimized. Okay, and then this one would be the window is restored. Next, we'll have this, the window is active. And when you leave that window and select another window, this will be the window is inactive. Okay, just to test this one out, just gonna make here a main method which will simply instantiate a new instance of window event demo and set it to visible. Right? So when we run this program, notice that the background here, here's the console, and the window is now active. So it says the window is active, and right after that, the window is now open. If we are going to minimize this window, you'll notice that it displays the message, the window is minimized, and the window is also, I say, minimized and inactive. When you restore it, the window is restored and the window is active. Also, when you just click outside of this window, remember this is now active, and when you click outside of this window, like that, it simply becomes inactive, and when you select it again, it is active. So these are all the methods that is being triggered by window event. So I have this pre-written program code, which is a very simple text editor that can only save a text file. The current running situation state that it is in is very simple. So if you run this program, it opens up with this very simple text editor where you can type something like, for example, the quick little brown fox. And when you click on save changes, it's gonna open up a save dialog. I'm going to say quick.text here, and it's saved. And to check if it was saved, we open up our text editor. Now our file explorer here, we have our quick.txt, which has the text file. And if we go back here and make some changes, this is another line of text, and save that changes. Let's see if it's reflected. Yes, it's also reflected. So that is the state of this particular program right now. Now the window event implementation that we can use here for this particular purpose is, for example, if you want that when you make changes like this, it should memorize, or it should take up that fact that this text has been changed and that it was not yet saved, so that when you click on the close button, it is going to trigger a dialog that tells the user that there are some changes that were made that are not yet being saved. And so you can have an option to click so that they can save the changes or not. So that is the one that we will be implementing on to this particular window program that is going to be very closely related to window event. So let me close this once again and go back here. The first thing I want to do is I already have this private property, which is a boolean, and it tracks whether changes has been made or not. But this, as you can see, it has a yellow squiggly line because this is not being used so far. What we can do here is we can add an event to our text area, so that when you type on the text area, it is going to trigger an event that is going to change this boolean value into false. So every time the keyboard strikes on the text area, this boolean has to become false. So that's the first thing that we need to do here. So here I'm gonna add text area that add, since we will be listening to a keyboard event or keyboard strikes entries, we're going to add key listener, right? And here we're going to create a new event.key listener, and inside of this, actually we're going to use key adapter, so that we will only be implementing one of the methods. The particular method that we'll be using is public void key type. Okay, and it has key event as a parameter. So once this happened, we are going to call a method that is going to set the has changes property to true. So we'll just call this set has changes. Okay, and that method we still have to create that. So going down here, I'm gonna add private void set has changes, and we're going to simply say if not has changes. Let's just make it as simple as possible. We're simply saying has changes equals to true. So every time a keyboard entry is detected on the text area, it's simply going to change the property has changes to true. So now we have a way of telling whether there was changes or not. Also, when we save on the save changes, after the file is being saved and the connection to the file is being closed, we also change back the has changes to false, which means that since all the changes has been saved, then there are no changes left. So that's why it's set to false. But when a keyboard is struck on a text area, it calls this method, and this method simply changes the has changes property to back to true. So now the next thing we need to do is to make that have a listener to listen to the window, so that we can implement a dialog box if there are changes. So here we're going to have to add a window listener. Now, since we are only going to implement one of the six method of the window listener, we are going to implement only a window adapter. So Java new awt.event.window adapter, and inside of here we're only going to implement the window closing public void window closing event. And of course here we are going to add as well a window event. And if this happens, when a closing event happens, you are simply going to call check for changes and save dialog. It's a very long name, but anyway, I'll just copy that and create that function or method right here, public void. So when this is called, we are simply going to check if there are changes, and if there are changes, we are simply going to display a message to our user, a dialog box, actually a confirmation box that is going to tell our user that there are changes that are not yet saved, and give the user the opportunity to save the changes before the window is closed. So here we're going to have to create a I forgot the name, Dialog confirm. Okay, option pane that show confirm dialog. And okay, all right, so these are the arguments that we need to have. The parent will be this. Okay, the message will of course be there are unsaved changes to this file, and then do you want to save these changes, like that. And in our title, save changes, and the type is going to be option pane dot yes no option. Right, and we have to assign this to an int we called a response or res, so that we can check if the user presses yes. So if res is equal to option pane dot yes option, which means that if the user presses yes, we're simply going to call save changes, and that's it. I think that will be it. So save, and let's try. Okay, so now we type something here and save that. I'll just call this something.txt and save. Now let's take a look at our file. So we have now another text file, something.txt, and if you open it, it has something inside of it. Let's go back to our window right here, and this time we'll be adding some text, something to remember. But this time, instead of clicking save, we click on close. Alright, so now since we have changes, it displays this dialog. There are unsaved changes to this file. Do you want to save these changes? And we have a typo here. Click on yes, and it closes. But let's take a look at the output. And yeah, it has the changes being saved. Okay, so let me just check on that typo there, and that will be it. So that is an example of window event class. I think this will be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again in the next one.